We are here. Hi, guys. Yep. Nice to see you all. I just want everyone who is already here to put your cameras on. We are about to start our webinar today. So, hi, Nir. Hi, Uri. Hello to everyone who is with us today. So, thank you for joining us. And we are, as I said, we're about to begin. I want to introduce our speaker, our incredible host of our webinar. This is Ashna. She will, in a minute, tell a little bit more about herself. And Ashna, I have to say that we really appreciate your time and you joining us and sharing with us all the knowledge and all the experience you're bringing for this webinar. So guys, you have an opportunity to learn, to ask questions, to network, to communicate with Ashna today. I think Ashna will tell more exciting things about the topic and about herself. So Ashna, I'm giving you the stage and let's begin.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Just want to make sure, Galina, that you can hear me okay. And then you can also see my screen that I'm presenting. I want to make sure. Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right. Hey, everyone. This is Ashna Patel. And as you may have seen, today we're going to talk about how to become a top-rated CS professional. So there are some tips and tricks, that I'm going to be sharing during this session about, being a CS professional, just being overall just a structure about customer success and, some from my experience, some from my failures, to be honest, too, and some from my, learnings and the win stories that I have. But along the way, I'm going to be sharing a lot of, best practices and tips and tricks and resources and things that you can rely on to kickstart your CS journey, to kickstart your, professional journey, if that's what that's where you are, or even, if you're trying to make a transition into CS or along the way. So before further ado, we'll get started. I do know that I think Galina and I believe she's going to be looking at the chat. So if you have any questions, dropping your questions in the chat. We are going to keep, try to keep like 10-15 minutes at the end, give or take, for a Q&A. So we will have a little bit of time to do a Q&A. I will also share my LinkedIn and other, ways to connect at the end. So if there are any follow-up afterwards that you want to, kind of ask me directly, I'm open to, open to that too. So we'll go through that too. So you could do that too. We'll talk about that as well. But yeah, I think we'll have the Q&A at the end. Try to take notes. It is also being recorded. So, you have all those resources that you're going to get afterwards. All right, so we'll jump right in. Okay, so first of all, I think we're going to talk about what's on the docket today. What are we going to talk about? What am I going to cover today? So today I'm going to talk a little bit about me and my story. And this is not just to brag about myself, but really just to also kind of talk about, just to kind of give you an idea how much, what did I do to get where I am in my CS journey? And what are the learning points that I can probably suggest for you guys? So a little bit about me, my story, what I do, and things like that. And then we're going to jump into kind of, why customer success. This is going to be an important area where we focus on, why do I want to be in customer success, if that's what I want to go into, and kind of understanding your own why behind it. Then we'll go into how to break into CS. What are the tips and best practices I can suggest for you to get into customer success. Then we'll jump into kind of talking about what does it take to be a great CSM. There are things that you need to be doing afterwards, after you become a customer success manager, customer success associate, customer success professional. I mean, that's just the one word. I mean, it could be said in multiple different ways. So, once you get into that professional role, what does it take to be a great in it? And then we'll jump in, kind of, steer a little bit, and then we'll jump in talking about working with customers. So this is where I'm going to be talking about some frameworks that I've put together that is helping me and my team and a lot of the other people that I worked with in their day-to-day. And these are going to be some day-to-day best practices that you can use in your professional career. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about. All right. So starting with a little bit about me. So who am I? You know my name, Ashna Patel, and that's my picture. Obviously, I'm here, and that's my picture. That's kind of weird. Maybe I shouldn't have put the picture, but oh well, that works. So I manage our customer success and support team at a company called Ascend Cloud. Ascend Cloud has it's a B2B SaaS organization, so in the tech world. And I've got a couple, we have a couple products off of Salesforce App Exchange. So I work within those in that area, and I manage our customer success and our customer support team for both of our products right now. So that's the arena that I am in. Along with that, this year, last year, and then this year, I've been also, awarded as a top 25 customer success influencer, and also the top 50 women in customer success influencer. So, what I'm doing today, what I'm giving you today, this is bread and butter for me. I'm so passionate about this. All the resources I'm going to share. I do this a lot within many different communities, and I myself have also built some communities. So if you've heard about CS Insider, CS Ladies, these are different communities that I've built. I'm a founder of those. CS Insider in particular is a good one to join because we also focus on breaking into CS specifically, and also how to grow your career in CS. We have a newsletter, we have mixers where you can meet a lot of people, and some more. And we're also starting with an event with it too. So that's going to be also useful that you can do. And then I also have a book club where we read, customer success related books together and learn from one another. So it's really about, how can we, all get together from different organizations, different, stage in their career and things, and then learn together. So these are some communities that I've formed that all of you are more than happy or more than welcome to join. So that's a little bit about me from what I do right now.
All right, actually, really quick. If yes. You could just speak a little bit slower, because not all of us are native English. So just to yes. make sure that we can all keep up with you.
Yes. No, you're totally fine. I'm sorry, I'm like running train right now. So
no, okay. You're good. Thank you.
I will do my best, but thank you for reminding me that. So yeah. Along with that, I do have a 7 to 8 years of customer success experience. And, that started with my previous company where I used to do account management, customer success sort of all together. But in this company, this is where I want to give you some tips. I started as an SDR, which is sales development representative. So really, at the end of a funnel in an organization, I started with all the way at the bottom. And then now from there, within the last 5 years, I grew into, managing 2 teams in customer success. So that's my journey. So I went from SDR to CSM to team leading, to managing 1 team and then managing 2 teams. And to kind of give you some ideas, when I applied for this, tech industry into the SDR role, that wasn't my first choice. I wanted to apply for a CSM. I knew I wanted to be in customer success from day one, but I didn't have any experience in tech world. I didn't have any experience in the just like the direct experience of CS. I've done it before in account management and some wearing a lot of other hats and some other roles, but I didn't have that experience. So I took a chance, and I told myself, this is a new industry, new everything. I'm going to go and try to get in, from all the way bottom. And then I'm going to see if I'm going to like it. If I'm not going to like it, are they going to like me? Are they going to not like me? And then I'll put my focus on that I wanted to grow in customer success. So that's what I did. I applied for SDR. I got in an SDR. And keep in mind, from day one, I made sure that I communicated with my team here at my company from day one that overall, eventually my goal was to be in customer success. And they also, so it's important that, it's not always kind of like, you don't always have to get into that first role that you really wanted. Sometimes you have to take a different route. That's the best practice that I'm trying to give you. And that's what I did. But you have to keep in mind your goal. And your goal, for me, my goal was I wanted to be in customer success. And I'll tell you this, within 3 to 4 months, I was promoted to be a CSM, because what I did is I just didn't tell them that I wanted to be a CS and then that's it. And then I put my hands up. What I did is I told them I wanted to be a CSM, but at the same time, I aced my role being an SDR. You know, I did everything so that I showed them that I'm a hardworking professional that will, you know, do what it takes to perform best in the role that I was in. And at the same time, any little time that I had, I would reach out to our CS team, internal CS team, or I would find and learn a little bit more about products. I'd find time to learn a little bit more about, you know, customer success in general. So I kept learning and learning about it. So when the time came, they already knew that she's good, because I was already putting efforts into becoming what I wanted to be. And at the same time, I was doing best in where I was. So that's really helped me to move into. And I did the same thing for getting promotions in all the other roles. So this is really a good, like a career advice, that you're not always, just because you've been in a company or been in a position for 4 years doesn't mean that you're going to get a promotion or something. You know, the way the business works a lot of times is that you have to show, you know, you have to lead by example, basically. You have to show that I can do this. And that's really when your strategic creative mind works and you find more opportunities to grow yourself. So, you know, you're acing what you're doing right now, but also putting efforts into what you want to do next. And that could be just reaching out to people, learning a little bit more about it, preparing yourself, you know, things like that. So for you, if you're trying to break into whatever role right now, this is going to be an important lesson, that what are you doing today to learn a lot about customer success? That's really, you know, what really I would ask you. And if the answer is, I don't know, or nothing, and that's okay. But then, you know, I hope that by the end of this session, you at least have 3 things that you can pick up and start and work on to you know, to fill up your library to learn a little bit more about what you want to do next. Okay, all right, enough about me. Along with that, I just want to, you know, tell you I'm a book nerd. I love reading books. I have books all over my house. Believe me, my husband freaks out at me every time I order a new books, but I love reading books. And again, fictional, non-fictional, all of it. That's a little bit. And then I love networking. I am going to share my LinkedIn at the end. I would love to connect with all of you and reach out to me with any questions. I love networking. So I'm open to that. All right, okay. So talking about why customer success, this is really important. Every time someone reaches out to me, or every time I talk to someone that's looking to get into CS or looking to change their career or looking to, you know, move up into the CS, I always talk about this quite a bit. And I always ask them, why do you want to be in CS? You know, what's really your why behind it? And this is a practice that I would even recommend all of you to do if you haven't done already. You know, just kind of, you know, take a piece of paper and just write down, you know, what are my 3 whys that I want to be into the role that you're pursuing, or into the industry that you're pursuing, into the you know, the position that you're really going for, whatever that may be. And for example, for customer success, is it really because that's what the industry is talking about? Is it really because that's what, you know, that's really the bloom right now? Everybody's going into CS. All the organization is crazy about it. That's where the, you know, that's where the money is. Let's be honest. Is that really the reason? Or, you know, ask yourself this question: are you really passionate about helping customers? Are you really passionate about being strategic and solving customers' queries and issues? Are you really passionate about working 2 steps ahead and presenting solutions before even an issue occurs? So if the answer to all these questions is yes, then my suggestion is yes, that's really where you want to be. Because what is this telling me? This is not about hard skills, learning products and things like that. This is about where your passion is. You know, for me, my passion is in customer success because I love helping people. I love helping customers. I love helping internal people. I love, you know, just, you know, putting down, blocking an hour on my calendar and figuring out, this is an issue for my customer. What am I going to do to fix it? Who am I going to reach out to internally and do this? So it's kind of like, this is my arena. You know, I can do sales. I can do, you know, support too, but customer success is really where my passion is. So figure out your whys, write down those three, like I said, whys, why do I want to be in this area? And then in the same thing, here's another exercise that you can do. In the same piece of paper that you're writing your 3 whys, maybe add another column and maybe write down, what are the skills that I'm bringing to the table? And this could be the skills from, you're learning at Jolt. This could be skills that you're learning from, books that you may have read or in your past experiences or anything. It doesn't have to be, from your job that you did before. Your skills can be from anywhere and everywhere. There's a difference between soft skills and hard skills. And count me on this. Hard skills, people can teach you. You can sign up for a webinar, you can sign up for a course or something, and you can learn hard skill. You want to learn about CS tool, you can learn that. You learn about how to work with Excel or Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever other things, you can learn that. You can learn that by signing up for courses. But if you want to learn how to be empathetic, if you want to learn how to be emotional intelligence, and if you want to learn about how to communicate better, these are the things that won't happen just by signing up for a webinar. You have to put those into practice. And these are the things that you grab from your skills and everything that you've had before. So do this practice, write down the skills that you've possessed before, and then do some research on online or by networking and things like that. Ask people, what are the skills that people require in customer success? And then match those. What are the skills that you already have or the skills that are required? And then write down the skills that are missing and then go behind those. Then you know exactly what you're missing and what you need to get to be able to feel confident into what you want to do. This practice is going to help you whether you're trying to jump from, get into CS or whether if you're trying to jump from one role to another. It's really about understanding where you are today, where do you need to go, and what's that gap in between. And when you understand the gap, then you can go behind it. Okay, all right. Taking a pause here, but so now that brings me to the next question. We understand the gap, then how can how is it going to help us break into customer success? So how do you break into customer success? So here, this is really my personal tips that I'm really going to give you is learning must never stop. You should never stop learning. And when I say that, you're going to be able to learn from everyone and anyone all around you and there's so many resources. Believe me, there's so many resources from where you can learn. So here's the 3 things that I would kind of, break it down into. First is network. Build your network. And that doesn't mean, you start posting stuff on LinkedIn or, on Instagram and things like that about customer success. No, I mean having one-on-one genuine conversations, joining communities, growing your network. How many people do you know outside of your vicinity that are in CS? Right now, if I tell you, ever since I started networking through LinkedIn and other things, 80% of my LinkedIn network is in customer success right now at some or other level, because that's my network. That's the people, I've grown that network. I'm not saying you have to do the same, but what I'm trying to say, it's now I know that I have communities that I can go to and ask questions. If I can rely on them. I can learn from them, so there's communities, one-on-one discussions, and grow your network. And I'm going to give you something else here too. But before that, resources is the second one. Take courses. Obviously, you've joined Jolt, but there's other courses too that you can also join if you wanted to just just understand about a particular part of CS. Attend webinars. There's really so many webinars that people have on different types of, arenas and areas of customer success. Attend those events and webinars, and there's so many virtual ones, so you don't have to go there. There's so many free virtual ones that you can attend. And read books. Off top of my head, I can tell you if there are a few books that you really want to read, especially when you're trying to break into CS. One of them is the Customer Success Professionals Handbook. This was written by Ruben and Ashwin. These were former Gainsight employees, and they wrote this book, I think, a few years ago. But it has A through Z of everything that you want to learn about if you're starting into CS. It literally has so much in it. So read that book. And then along with that, what I'm going to do today is, I've told Galina already, but before the end of today, I'll send over a list of communities that you can join, people that you can connect. And believe me, CS community is so open to, you know, people having joined them and connect with them. So I'll send over that so you can, you know, start to build up your network. You can always refer me. And I'll always suggest the people that I know, so that when you refer to them, they know who you are, already who I am. And then also I'll suggest, you know, courses that you can take, webinars that you can attend, and a list of books. I have, like I said, book nerd here. So I have many list of books, and I'll give you all of that. So you'll have this. So from today, I mean, you can even get started with it today to you know, start building your network. And when you have one-on-one discussions, here's the best tip that I can give you with one-on-one discussions. You want to keep in mind, create, you know, at least 5 to 10 questions, like have 5 to 10 questions that you want to ask to the person, you know, when you have one-on-one discussions with people. And then at the end of it, always ask the person, hey, is there anyone in your network that you can suggest that I might benefit by talking to? You know, so then that way, if that person suggests, you have another discussion, then another discussion. That's how you grow network. That's how you kind of, you know, continue having conversation. And you're not just asking about, hey, what do you do in CS and things like that. No, you're genuinely asking, I'm trying to break into CS. I'm trying to, you know, get this role. Here's my questions. Here's what I'm trying to do. What tips can you give me to go apply for this role? What tips can you give me to, you know, prepare for this interview? What tips can you give me if I have to build this, and this exercise or whatever? So these are the questions that you're asking. And believe me, the community is going to be very open about, you know, sharing all those details with you. So this is going to be it. This is going to be your, you know, networking and resources. And the last thing I'd say is take a chance. You know, you can't be just learning and not be doing anything about it. So be okay to be taking first step. And what I mean by that is start applying. If you haven't already, you know, as you network and put together resources and things like that, start applying. You're going to fail. You might find some position that you're like, hey, this is it. This is going to be it. And then you don't get it, but that's okay. It's not failing, it's learning. Because every time, every interview that you go through, and you will have this chance, the first few interviews that you go through, that just might be just like a kind of like your learning opportunities. You know, write down the question that they're asking, build a guide of questions for you. So the next time when you have an interview again, you're reading and going through those questions plus other things. Every interview is going to teach you something. Believe me, at the end of, by the time you have a job, you'll be able to write a full-on article with, like, you know, with everything, and you're gonna be able to help someone else. So this is why I say learning must never stop. In every step that you do, there's some sort of learning. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Moving on. So now let's say that you've got your CSM role, and we're going to talk about, you know, what does it take to be a good CSM? In this portion, I want to focus on a few different things. So first is understanding data and feelings. And I always tell people that customer success is a combination of data and feelings. It's a 50-50. You can't have just the data and not talk about feelings and emotions, because your customer success doesn't only rely on you know, the usage metrics, the data that you're getting, the KPIs that you're looking at, is also rely on how are they feeling about it. Just because your customer is using your product to its full extent doesn't mean that they're happy with it. And this is where this data and feeling combination comes in place. So when you're researching about the roles, when you're researching about, you know, the kind of like going into a new organization and things like that, or prepping for your interviews and prepping for, you know, trying to be, or even after when you're becoming a CSM, always focus on how am I going to look at this data and how am I going to apply this, you know, into like a feelings and into my day-to-day practices so that I can actually understand my customers and care about them. There's also the other things that I also do is I read a LinkedIn post the other day where someone shared a acronyms for CS, customer success professionals, and it really talks about different things that you want to learn, like metrics, different positions of CS and what it really means. I'm going to share that with you as well in the resources that I sent over. But it really kind of just understanding of the NPS, which is Net Promoter Score, CSAT, the satisfaction score, NRR, GRR, churn rate, health score. These are some of the metrics and KPIs that every organization that are doing CS is focusing on those. Without that, you can't understand how your customers are doing. But those are also giving you just the data. So when you get the NPS and CSAT, you also have to kind of keep in mind that, hey, this customer seems like a happy customer because they're using our product so much, they're doing great. But the emotional intelligence, the feelings part come in place when you take a chance and kind of put in place okay, fine, if they're happy, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to reach out to this customer? How, what's going to be my strategy to reaching out to the happy customer versus not so happy customer based on the data? That's where the emotion, the feelings part come in place. If your customer is happy, if your customer is really excited, if your customer loves hearing about some stuff, that's what you focus on. So, keep your ears and eyes open when you're having a conversation with your customer. A lot of times, what they're saying is not really what they're saying. So you have to read the room, especially when you're on Zoom in the virtual world or in the one-on-one, sessions with your customers. Try to read the room. Are they really, happy customers? Do they have a cool background? And I know it's kind of like, it's silly, but it helps. These are some of the best practices. And then I think the other thing is, and this is also going to help you understand your customer a little bit better. Always don't just jump into, hey, this is what the usage is showing me. You're doing good, X, Y, and Z. No, care about them. Really ask them questions. Get to know your customers. A lot of time I always ask when I have one-on-ones with my team, I usually ask my team would bring up with like, hey, this customer is asking me this, this, and this, and they want this X, Y, and Z. My question always to them is, okay, fine. How much do you know the customer? It's like, what kind of a relationship have you built with your customer? And again, we don't need to know every, details about the customer, but it is important that we focus on, just the, basics of how much do you know about the customer and you care about them, because that's going to help you transfer that data into feelings and then present those options to your customers. And sometimes this helps when you set yourself some goals, short terms and long terms. This is always going to help you when you see a situation, whether with, looking at KPIs and situation with your customer, divide that situation into short-term and long-term goals. How am I going to handle the situation today? And then the next thing in your mind should always be, how am I going to fix this situation in the long term with the help of my manager, with help of my team, with help of whatever, so that it never happens again. So this is always, divide yourself, like set yourself goals, divide them into short-term and long-term. Okay, all right. Moving on, the other thing, this is my favorite, is focusing on the 3 C's of CS. This is what also going to help you be a good, CSM. Collaborate, communicate, and celebrate. And the tricky part here, the best part here is that this is for externally and internally. So you have to, collaborate with your customer better, but you also have to collaborate with your internal team. Your internal, CS team, your internal cross-functioning team, so your product team, your marketing team, your sales team, you have to collaborate better with them. You can't just be like, oh, that guy, I don't like it because I don't want to work with them. Or you can just be like, hey, I can't understand them, or whatever that may be. You have to, just spend a little time like on collaboration. So you have to collaborate with them. And same thing, collaborate with your customer. Keep them up to date with where things are. Be honest with them. And then, so that way you can work with it. if you know where your customer are and how are they doing, you can work with them. And then the other one is communicate, which is also the same thing as kind of collaboration, but also communication is really important internally and externally. You are a center between your externals and internals. You are a center between your customers and your internal team. So what questions do you ask? How are you communicating externally with your customer? When you're jumping on a call, take notice of these little things. When you're jumping on a call and you're explaining them something about the product, are they excited about it? What is their excitement level? Make a note of that. Go take it back to your product team internally, communicate that back. So this is your flow. Communication is really important. And then the lastly is celebration. There's nothing important if you don't celebrate what you just accomplished, whether it's just a small ask from your customer that you've accomplished, or whether it's something from your internal team that you had to deliver it to your customer that you've accomplished, or whether it's a renewal that you have won, or whether it's a new customer that you've onboarded. You have to celebrate, and you have to celebrate with your customers, and you have to celebrate with your internal team. Celebration is very important, because when you celebrate, it puts it another level in terms of, your internal and external people will trust you more. That's bond. That's a different level of bonding. You are celebrating their wins. You're celebrating what's important for them, which is at the end of the day, it's going to be important for you because their win is your win. So these are the 3 C's that I always tell people to focus on: collaboration, communication, and celebration. And lastly, I'm going to run through this here, but be yourself. This is really important. I always tell people is you don't have to be master in everything and anything. You just have to know where to get the answers. A lot of times people go behind and trying to, especially when you're new in being a CS and whatnot, you're really trying behind, I need to learn this. What if I get on a call and then I don't know what to answer the customer or whatever? No, be yourself, be honest, be yourself. Honesty speaks louder than anything. You have to be honest. Hey, I'm new here. I don't know much about it, but I do know where to get this answer. So let me write this down. Give me all the details that I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to get you this answer. This comes out way smarter and stronger and effective than just trying to give them a wrong answer or trying to figure something out and give them, an answer that you yourself have no idea about. So be yourself, be an opportunity seeker. So, if you find an opportunity in any situation, whether you're trying to grow in your career, whether you're just trying to learn a lot about the customer and whatnot, be an opportunity seeker. Look for those opportunities and grab them as they come in. Rely on people, as I mentioned before. Lead by example. I'm not talking about leadership here. This is really, I'm talking about, you have to sharpen some of your skills. If you want something, what are you, as I mentioned earlier in the session, if you want something, what are you doing today to get there? Because there are things that we have in control and there are things that we don't control. So if we can work on the things that we have control over, kind of like, learning about the position, learning a lot about the customer, learning a lot about, what's going to happen on the other side, just X, Y, and Z, and asking those questions, that can help to be a great CSM. Manage your tasks, manage your time. This is going to be very important. If you're going into this, a lot of time you hear CSMs or customer success people telling you, oh my God, I have no time on my calendar. I have back-to-back meetings. These things are normal. Being a CS, it comes in flow. I'm telling you, some days you're like, I have so much time, I can do X, Y, and Z. And then some days you're like, I have no time. But very important is you manage your tasks, manage your time. This is where the long-term and short-term goals comes in play. Divide your task into what's a priority right now, what's important, but not so urgent, so I can get to it. What's very not urgent, and decline those meetings. It's okay to decline those meetings that are not important for you. So this is how you manage your time and you manage your tasks. Your first priority is always your customer. So if anything is breaking and, whatever's happening with your customer, that's what you go behind. That's when you do internal stuff and things like that. So manage that a little bit. And then lastly, I always tell, try, and continue trying. There's always going to be so many places where you're going to be like, oh, I've aced this, but there's always, some room for growth. And this is not kind of like, I need to master this or not, but this is something about, you have to continuously trying, learning and trying and implementing those things and then trying something again. And that's going to help you to be a great CSM. All right, I'll take a pause here. Galina, has there been any questions so far that I can answer before I jump into my next part?
We don't have questions written in the chat, but if someone have a question, if someone has a question now and you have like a minute to ask to hop into a presentation. So guys, does anyone have a question? Okay, it seems like we can go on.
Okay, awesome. All right. So this part is, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of like a day-to-day, and we're going to drill in. I was talking a little bit overall about, becoming a CSM, breaking to CS. Now we're going to talk about as if, you are already in CS, and I'm going to share some frameworks and best practices that I've put together, which has been very helpful and successful for me, my team, and some of the other people that I worked with. And this is working with customers. Even in working with customers, I'm going to focus a little bit about, your customer life cycle and how it really aligns with project management. I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but customer success and project management, they go really hand in hand. They're really like, what you do in project management, there's so many parts in customer success. All you're doing is you're managing different types of projects. This could be shorter project, this could be bigger project, shorter goals, longer goals, things like that. But at the end of the day, it's a bunch of processes based on different tasks and things that we have to do to get to the other side. And the other side is providing value to our customers. So that's where, if you need to achieve something, then you put, steps together. You have different kind of, tasks put together. For example, like if you're planning to do something or build something this weekend for your house or for your home, you're gonna go look at the manual. You're gonna figure out, first I'm gonna go buy that thing, then I'm gonna create this, and then I'm gonna do this. Like you're gonna put those things into different buckets and divide those, and then you're gonna follow those to get to the other side. The other side is getting out of the value of that thing that you just purchased. So customer success, project management go hand in hand. This is where I'm going to talk about this 5 process group. This process group is based on a book on project management, which I love, and I recommend everyone to read here. It's called, which I'll share the link to in the resources that I'll send, but it's called Project Management for Unofficial Project Managers. If you know project management, if you go in to get a project management certificate, that can be a little technical and things like that. This project management is talking about kind of, where there's 5 stage in a process group. Initializing, so it's kind of like the start of it. Then you get into planning phase, okay, fine, I want to build this, something that I want to put together. I'm going to plan it out a little bit. Then you're going to execute it. Perfect. I'm going to go execute this. We have figured out the plan. Now I got to, just go with it. What are my steps to go actually execute this? And then you're going to monitor and control it, which means, okay, fine. Now there's going to be a stage where you're going to just watch it. Is it going to break? If they have any questions, I'm going to ask. If there's anything that's not working right, I'm going to go fix it. So monitoring, controlling. And then lastly, it's closing, so really coming back to the circle. So these are project management steps, and how they align with customer success, especially I'm talking about an onboarding cycle, your customer journey onboarding cycle here. It starts with a handoff and a kickoff. So once a prospect becomes a customer, then they go into the cycle where they are, they come to the customer management area. Now, there can be company where there's implementation team, onboarding team, and then the customer success, and then the renewals team. But there can also be a company where only the customer success manager does it all. There's a combination of different things. The goal here is to understand this different portion. So the initial stage of project management is your handoff and kickoff. That's where what is my goal? What's the purpose here? What's going to be the value that we're really trying to seek out of this? That's what you're trying to get at the kickoff call. So kickoff call is really trying to set expectations with your customers. So basically, hey customer, great that you're a customer now. We're really excited to work with you. But let's talk about, what are your use cases? Like, what is it that you're trying to achieve? What are your goals with our product, with our solution, with our platform? And then you create a plan, basically, that plan is going to be your success plan. Based on what you just told me, your goals are, how am I going to go to those success? What are the stages to achieve those? And then that's the plan that you create. That's your kickoff. Then you get into discovery. Then you kind of get into, okay, fine, let's plan this further. Each of these different stages that we have created, let's plan those out. How are we going to execute these? So then that leads you to execution stage. Fine, we're going to go pick those 4 different sections that we planned out, and we're going to execute them as we have planned. We're going to take care of each of this task. Customer, you take care of this. I'm going to take care of this, and that's going to be our implementation, configuration, execution part. And then the training portion. A lot of the time, what you have to do as a customer success professional is you have to train your customers on your products or your solutions that you're using. So fine, we have executed, you have the solution that you need, the way that you need. Now I'm going to help you train everyone else so that they understand what they need to use. And then at the end, we're going to move you into a long-term success phase. So this is where you can talk to them about, fine, now we're going to have QBRs every 3 months. We're going to do monthly check-ins, every whatever months. Then we're going to talk about, then our renewals team will reach out to you for renewals 90 days in advance. So you're moving them into a long-term phase. And then you're still telling them, then you still have support from us. You can still reach out to me with all your questions, or our support team, or our help site, things like this. So this is the cycle that you have to go through with your customer. This is a typical cycle. And it's just like, as I mentioned, it's just like a project plan. Each of these can be a different projects that you do, which is why it's really important that you get a good understanding of project management, because that's going to help you with customer success. And that leads us, and this is an additional thing that I'm going to drill down, which is the kickoff meeting. This is also another framework that I've created. Now, some of you may not use this from tomorrow, but let me give you this. What I'm going to give you here, this is going to be helpful for you in your kickoff meeting or any client meeting whatsoever, in no matter what position you are in your organization. And if you follow this framework, I guarantee you by the end of it, you will come out with a successful plan for your project that you're doing with your customer, and it's going to be successful for you. So my framework is really important, that before you get into the client kickoff meeting, you have to keep in mind 5 things. Who, why, what, how, and when. So who focuses on, your stakeholders. Who is going to be in these meetings from our side and from the customer side? Who are these people that are in this meeting that I should, kind of keep in mind on? And you have to figure this out beforehand. So work with your salesperson when you're, going into a kickoff meeting, when you go into the client meeting or whoever. Be like, hey, who are these important key players on the other side? What are their roles? What do they do? And you find all that out, and then you make a note of them. And those all need to be on those kickoff meeting if they're important. So when you get on the kickoff meeting, first you do is, say them thank you, and then you introduce yourself, you introduce them, and then you talk about the key stakeholder. So you've got your who's right there. Who is important? Then you talk about why, which is really kind of like, why are we here? And we're here to talk about, your contract details. We're here to talk about why did you buy your solution? What's important? What's your end goal here? Like you basically going over, here's how much I know so far based on your conversation with your salesperson, based on everything that you've learned internally. Here's how much I know. And then here's, I'm going to tell you, can you customer confirm this and add anything else to it so that your CSM going forward is up to date with what I need to achieve for you, basically what we need to achieve together. So that's where the why comes in place. Then you jump into what, which is setting expectations. Now that we know, what's going to be, what's important for you, we're going to talk about what are, your initial use cases. What are your goals and objectives? What are you trying to achieve? What are going to be the challenges along the way that we should talk about? How are we going to tackle? Here's the expectation from my end. I'm going to need X, Y, and Z person from your side to help me build this so that we can be successful. And then I'm going to give you this, this, and this so that you're successful. So that's what you kind of get from the what aspect. Then you jump into the how, which is really fine. We have figured out the plan of what we're going to do. Now we're going to talk about how are we going to execute this. See the execution, the implementation portion comes in play. So this is where typically in a tech world, installation and configuration comes in place. How are we going to install this, product or solutions in your environment? Have you configured this already? How much left is there to configure? How are we going to configure? Who do I need at that, who is involved in that configuration? The hows are really written down. Then you give them ideas. Here's what I need from you. Here's what I'm going to give you. And then you're going to go through the configuration basically. So that's going to be, you're talking about the configuration part, the how part. How are we going to make it happen? And then lastly is to make it happen, which is when. When are we going to do? So what are your milestones and next steps? So what is your project plan? What are your ETA? What's the next step? You always, at the end of every call, you always talk about what's next. Even if you can, schedule your next call already so that you don't have to go back and forth via email. And then you always tell them, I know I gave you a lot today, but I'm going to follow up with an email with all of this details so that you have it handy. And I'll break out, what's your role here, what's my role here, what I need from you, and what I'm going to give you on my side. And then we're going to go from there. So this is going to be your kind of like your successful kickoff call when you go over the who, the why, the what, the how, and the when. So this is really the whole framework. But to keep in mind, none of this can be effective if you don't prepare for it right, and if you don't follow up for it right. So preparation, keep this framework in mind when you're preparing for your kickoffs too, so that you can make sure you have right questions to ask. You have all the people that needs to be there. You have all the things that you need. And then follow-up is always, and I'll share another resource that I'll share is a follow-up email template that I have where you can, just plug in, here's what you need to add. Here's what you, ask. Here's what you cover. And here are the follow-up questions that you ask. That's when you know that you're being successful, because your job as a customer success manager is kind of like a project manager too. You're managing this project. You've got the monkey for, like, you have the responsibility for this. So it's in your hand to work with them on both ways. I'm going to give you this, because when you give them something to do, the next time when you get on a call, you can ask them, hey, customer, I gave you this X, Y, and Z to do. Have you finished it? You get to hold them accountable, because it's a two-way street. You don't have everything in your hand. For them to be successful, it's a two-way street. You have to give them something and they have to come back to you. And if they don't, that's where the onboarding cycle fails, because you're putting a lot on yourself. So you have to keep in mind, it's a two-way street, it's a collaboration. You're being their advisor, not their worker, kind of. You're advising them, you're coaching them, you're hand-holding them, but you're not walking them around with everything. You're making them successful. That's your job. So that's what you have to keep in mind when you're going through this. All right. And that is the end of my, session today. I know I gave a lot. I talked a lot. And sorry, I try to slow it down. I am a fast talker. So I'm sorry if I talk really fast. But like I mentioned, if you want to connect with me, I will drop in the resources. I will drop in my LinkedIn. You can message me on LinkedIn. And we can connect, we can schedule some time if needed to connect with me. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And now I think I'm opening up for questions.
Thank you, Ashna. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
First of all, thank you for everything was so clear and simplified. So thank you for that. And I guess I'm wondering if you could share an experience you had as a customer success manager that was very challenging and that took more time and more patience or more resources to solve, and how you solved it.
Yeah, no, great question. So I always tell about this story. It's kind of a story. It's become a story now, but a customer experience that I've had when I was a customer success manager, managing one of our enterprise account. And we've had a customer when we had a situation where basically, so I work in a tech industry, and part of our solution, we have to push out releases into customers' org every now often. We used to have a different cycle before. We changed the cycle a little bit. Some customers, most of the customers are okay with it. Some customers are a little bit sensitive to that. When you change something, not everyone is, adaptive to change. Not a whole lot of customers like when you change a lot. So what happened is with this customer, we had to change. We did some change logs and we sent it out into customers, or we updated things. But what happened is we pushed it out before a 3-day weekend in the USA. Now, this 3-day weekend wasn't in customers sitting in somewhere outside of USA. It was only a USA holiday. So for the customer, and then they were, I think they were New Zealand or Australia. Anyway, long story short, they were already ahead of USA in a way. So I'm talking about like the time location only comes in play here too. And what happened is they received it, and somehow they thought that the release that we pushed out broke something in their organization. And that really freaked them out. And what I mean by that, it's like what the normal behavior that they were looking at, that wasn't happening. And the only thing that they could found in their it was just, our product that was, pushed out something before the time. So long story short, they came to a conclusion that it was us, and everything kind of like, it was broken because of us. Now I'm talking about, this is Saturday morning, my Saturday morning. We had a 3-day weekend, which was Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Saturday morning, we get this, freaking out email from this customer and literally telling us, oh my God, everything is broken. You guys broke this. It just, sometimes customers can get really, tricky. Obviously, I would be doing the same if I was in a situation, if I can't do my day-to-day work because of whatever. So that really got into a place where, now, typically, I'm not saying that you have to work on the weekends too, but seeing this, and I was the manager, I really, I kind of like try to put 2 + 2 together, that I'm not going to be able to talk to this customer until Tuesday morning, which is already going to be a Tuesday night or Wednesday morning for that customer, something along the lines of those. So it's kind of like, that's we're talking about after pushing out, that's 5 days or almost 4 days after for that customer. And they're already freaking out. So I don't tell people that work on the weekend or things like that, but sometimes as being a good CSM, as being someone that you're trying to take responsibility of the customer, it's also important that you're keeping an eye on this. I quickly send a message to my manager, even on a Saturday, I did, and be like, hey, here's the situation. I'm gonna respond to the customer right away, telling them, your first impact always is to calm them down. Empathy comes first. And that is always, you tell the customer, hey, you customer, I apologize for this situation. I agree. I see what you're saying. We hear you, we understand you. We're going to look into this as soon as possible, and we're going to try to fix it ASAP. And then, and then the other thing I mentioned is clarity and honesty. Honesty comes in play. Even though it's not going to look good that we pushed out something 3 days before, and we're not going to be able to talk to you until your Tuesday or something, I still went ahead and told them, hey, here's a reality. We're on our Saturday. Our team is not working right now. I see your issue. I'm looking into it from my end as much as I can. I've escalated this issue. So even on Tuesday morning or whenever our team comes in, this is the first thing that they're going to look at. I did everything on my end. I get it. But, you guys also try to find more into this, more details to kind of see, is it really us? Because they were the only customer that told us that it broke us. So the thing on our side were kind of like, is it really true? Is it really us? Because if it was something that it would have affected more than one customer. That was kind of my first approach. So I'll fast forward this a little bit. I'm telling you a long story here, but long story short here, what happened is it's, that first email and post, and I even tried to call them real quick, it really helped them to calm them down. They were like, hey, I appreciate that you're even, answering me on the weekend, and I get it. We would like to make some changes in the future. And then we're going to also try to look into this, on our side too. Turn out, they sent me an email late in the Saturday or Sunday morning or something, telling me it was something on their side that they were able to fix. It wasn't even us. So it was, the issue kind of resolved on their own. But the story, and I always talk about this, is it's really important that all I did is I took 2 minutes to write up that email and just just prioritize those and then and put those things into motion. Even though I wasn't going to be able to get to that in 3 days, I think just touching it and then just calming that down and just letting them know that we're here and we hear you, I think that really helped. And so what we did afterwards, we didn't just end it there. I didn't want the situation to ever happen again, especially with that customer. So this is where short-term and long-term comes in play that I talked about. I fixed the short-term by, addressing it right away. The long-term was that I got on the call with the customer and I told them, let's talk about this release plans. We're going to send these out ahead of time. If you guys want to be put into kind of no release, no automatic release something or something like that, we can put you on. Or if you want to talk about manual release system, we can discuss that with our product team. If you want us to reach out to you ahead of time before the release, we can talk to you about that. But let's make sure so that this never happens again between you and me. So at the end of it, the customer was really happy because they appreciated the short-term and long-term fix for them, even though it kind of, was a chaos for them a little bit. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but this is a situation that I kind of came in place where the feelings, the emotion intelligence portion of the things that I talk about really came in play. That it wasn't just about, the data and then the system, the technical side of things. It was about really communicating with the customer, being a CSM.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Any other questions?
I think I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. And also I would like to ask you, you mentioned before that sometimes you have to cope with customers that are not so collaborative. So you give them tasks and then they don't do anything. And that in that case, you speak with the onboarding team, right? But sometimes you are also in charge of the onboarding phase. So do you have any tips to manage this type of customers?
Yeah. No, I think good question. So I think here, this is where the hoop or the what section that I mentioned in the last portion really comes. The setting expectations part really comes in play, and a lot of the things you have to start setting expectations from the get-go. And what I mean by that, this is why the kickoff call is really important, because this is where you're really trying to kind of be like, hey, I know I want you to be successful. I want you to, get the value out of this 100%, but this is a 60-40 kind of a thing. I'm going to be doing 60% of things. You're going to be responsible to do 40% of things. And if you're not responsible to do those 40% of the things, I'm sorry, but this can lead to, this is another challenge that we can come across between, our onboarding or the cycle that we have. So I think what I would go back to you is setting expectations. Sometimes, if it's too late to do it, even where you are in your cycle, try to call the customers, be like, hey, I got to be honest with you. It's not about, me doing everything. I'm happy to help you with this. But at the end of the day, I can't do X, Y, and Z if I don't have X, A, B, and C things from you. So it's really kind of like setting those expectations. The sooner that you can do that, the faster and the better it will be. So that's why, even if you can predict that I'm going to be needing, this 5 things from you throughout the cycle, throughout the onboarding phase, talk to them about those in your kickoff call. Kickoff call is really about setting expectations. I want to set right expectations that you're going to have to do 40% of the things or 20% of the things. And it's going to be kind of like setting up this, or, working with that person, or making sure that I have X, Y, and Z on my calls. And if those are not there, we're facing delay, we're facing, we're not going to have clarity in our work, and all of that is going to happen. Now, and if you can, because at the end of the day, keep this in mind, at the end of the day, you're working with people. It's all about people. And if you can understand people and let them know ahead of time, I think that can really help with it. Does that answer your question? Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, I know we're at the hour, but if anyone has any questions, happy to handle them.
I think I'll take the silence as your explanation, and the entire webinar was so informative, so well structured, and so elaborative, but not, too much information to the point where it was overwhelming. You just managed to really make the entire role of customer success something very, easy to understand and easy. I feel like someone coming from a completely different industry, I would know how to approach a client right now, which is a huge deal. And that's based on, me coming from a different industry. So I can only assume this was beneficial for anyone who kind of took the course at Jolt and did learn a little bit more about CS and is investing their time in the customer success industry. So I think with that, we will kind of say thank you. Thank you so much for being such a pleasure, not just to host, but as a host, you were really incredible and inspiring, and everything you told us was super informative, super helpful, and exactly what we needed to hear. So thank you so much. And everybody, I will just mention that this entire session was recorded and it will be posted. So you will have access to, view her slideshow, which was super helpful, as well as all the references and the links she's going to send us. And I see that she already sent her LinkedIn on the chat. So go ahead and connect to Ashna. Ashna, thank you so much. You are literally the best.
I appreciate it. Oh my God, I'm getting a lot of love right now. I'm getting all hyped up here. But no, I appreciate it. Like I said, this is my arena. I love customer success to the T. And, if you have any questions, I may be a little slower on LinkedIn messages, just trying to get, a lot of things at handle at the same time, but I will respond to you. And if nothing, I will also share my personal email that you can also reach out to me, via that. So any questions, come to me. I'm glad that it was helpful. Even if you can, take 2 or 3 things out of this and that can help you, that would be, something for me. So I appreciate and thank you for all being a great audience. I know I talk a lot, so thanks.
You were absolutely perfect and exactly what we needed. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today, and can't wait to see you in our next webinar and to see you on our one-on-ones. And Ashna, again, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Thanks a lot. Enjoy, everyone. Bye.
Have a good night. Ashna, you still here?
All right. Yeah, I think I was trying to, I don't know what I was trying to